Hi, and welcome. So, how do you become intuitive? What does it mean to be intuitive? And why is being intuitive useful? And what's the difference between being intuitive and being psychic? Can everybody be intuitive? Can everybody be psychic? So, let's talk about it. Generally, when people talk about being psychic, they mean to be able to predict the future. Now, in my experience, people who I have known who have called themselves psychic, it was very, very hit or miss. So I personally don't have a lot of faith in people who call themselves psychic or in their predictions. Not to say that sometimes people can't be correct, but on any kind of consistent basis to be able to predict the future, for entertainment purposes, awesome. To put your money on it or to make decisions based on someone else's future predictions, I wouldn't do it. Okay, being intuitive is something a little different. Where being psychic or having E.S.P, extrasensory perception, is generally thought of as referring to seeing events in the future, seeing things in the future, seeing people in the future. Being intuitive is much more about the here and now. So being intuitive, so where you would call being psychic is kind of like being able to see something from nothing. Something that doesn't exist now, doesn't yet exist in any way, hasn't happened, and yet somebody's able to go in the ether and somehow pluck that future vision and have it in their mind. And again, I'm not saying that it never happens. I just don't think that you can depend on it being consistent or true all of the time at all. So intuition is not about something from nothing. It is actually about sensing more deeply what is in the here and now. And let me just footnote that for a moment so I don't forget it, because if I think I'm going to say this later, I may forget. Being intuitive can also mean sensing trends. So you might say, based on what you're feeling now, you have a sense that there is a trend going forward about something happening or about someone's life. So that's not the same as a psychic prediction, because a psychic prediction is not a trend based on what you feel now, based on what you sense now. It is something, an isolated event in the future, could be in the very far future, with not necessarily any connection to what's here and now. So again, an intuitive person senses what is here right now. They just sense it more deeply and based on non-obvious inputs, which I'll get into that in a moment. And they also may sense trends based on what they sense right now. Okay, so it's kind of now and going forwards, without that break of a psychic prediction where it's just way out there. So now, what is intuition based on? So in a most simple manner, I would say that the difference between, say, I'm looking into a camera right now. So that is something that is based on empirical knowledge. My vision sees a camera. I'm looking into it. I see the little light. Okay, that's based on empirical knowledge. So an intuitive person also gets inputs, but they're not necessarily inputs from our senses. They are not obvious empirical inputs. Some people say that intuition is based on very subtle kinds of sensory perceptions, things not matching, things connecting in a certain way, or something that's a little out of place. That's possible. But I can also tell you from my own experience that being intuitive definitely also has to do with picking up impressions, and I'm talking here not through the 6 senses, okay? 5 senses? I'm going to embarrass myself here. Not through the senses, but picking up impressions that are coming on a different wavelength, something more subtle. And that's where intuition gets a little bit into the, shall we say, the non-empirical, the non-scientific, the hard to figure out. So if somebody would ask me, Mimi, do you believe in intuition? I would simply say to them, I wouldn't ask that question. I would say, is it a tool I have used? The answer is yes. Have I found it to be useful? The answer is yes. Have I checked its validity whenever I could? The answer is yes. So for me, it's not that I believe it exists like you believe an article of religious faith. It's not that I believe that it exists the way a scientist would say that they've proven something in a laboratory, or a person says that they know something exists because they see it, they smell it, they touch it, they can squeeze it. So it's neither one of those kinds of beliefs. It's not a faith belief, it's not an empirical belief based on the senses. It is simply me saying, yes, I've used it, yes, it's been useful, and so I'm going to continue to have that as a useful tool in my toolbox. And now what I would like to do is to show you how you can be quickly and easily intuitive. Now, before we do that, let's say, what would we use intuition for? What would you use intuition for? So again, it's not the kind of thing, you're not going to make predictions on the stock market based on your intuition. What you can do is become very sensitive about people around you. You can begin to feel what other people are feeling. You can sense what they're thinking, not in words. So I'm not going to tell you that you're going to be able to say that this person is thinking about a pink elephant. But I will tell you that if somebody is thinking hard, if their gears are moving, you will be able to pick that up. If someone is thinking a humorous thought, you may pick up on that humor. If someone is kind of ruminating over something sad, you'll pick up on that. You won't know the content of it, because again, that's also going into what I would call the psychic realm, where you can actually read somebody's thoughts in terms of the content. With intuition, what you'll get is the textures of the thought, the movement, the colors, the feeling, the emotion. So that can be very useful. It can be useful because it will put you more in touch with people. It will have you understanding people more. And it will be useful because it is absolutely an invaluable tool to help other people. Okay? So it's a deep kind of empathy, but it's not an empathy based on ideas of, oh, I should be empathetic right now. It's rather an empathy where you really start to feel the other person the same way that you would smell flowers and smell their fragrance. It becomes very real to you. And that guides you how to deal with people. So that's another facet of intuition. It's not just that you sense people on a deep level. It's that also your responses to them are determined and guided by your intuition. If you can feel that a person is right now kind of like this shape of puzzle piece, then you're going to also feel that this kind of response, is going to be awful. And this kind of response isn't going to fit. But if you can sense somebody like this, you can also sense that this kind of response might just be perfect for that person and that moment. And that's good for them, and it's good for you. While we're on the subject of people, what is intuition not for? It's not for manipulating people. It's not for exploiting them. It's not for showing off how smart you are, and it's not for playing games with people. I'm going to do a talk at one point on what makes a good therapist, okay? But just for right now, I want to give you a teeny little anecdote because it plays into this discussion about intuition. So I've done my share of therapy in the past. I'm talking here as a therapist. I've also done some therapy as a client, but I definitely have done it as a therapist. And I remember once one of my clients made some kind of remark about people, and he says, "See, that was smart. I'd make a good therapist." And I looked at him and I smiled and I said, "You know what makes a good therapist?" And he looked at me. Obviously, he thought being smart and having great analytical comments made a good therapist. Whether his comment was correct or not, I don't even remember to this day. It wasn't the point. I looked at him and I said, "A good therapist is somebody who really desires the benefit of another person." Okay? So let's relate that to intuition. The purpose of intuition is to help you when you need it, to guide you when you need it, and absolutely to benefit and help other people. And it is definitely not for the purposes of manipulating, exploiting, or using people. Okay? Now, the other thing is intuition can be not just about people. Intuition can be about places, about events, things that you are in the moment, or entering into, or considering, where you have a certain amount of data, or maybe you're in the situation or thinking about going into the situation. And you can also get a sense, kind of a felt sense in your body, if it feels right to you or not, if it feels like something to go forwards with or not. But I will tell you generally where intuition is most powerful is with living creatures. Here we're talking about human beings, but I can tell you, interestingly enough, you can use the exact same skills with higher level animals. Okay? Not getting into any kind of philosophical discussion about the difference between human beings and animals. I can just tell you, practically speaking, for example, I'm not a big dog person, okay? And I grew up in New York City, didn't grow up with dogs, moved away, lived away for quite a while, came back to New York City, and whoa, New York City was a dog town. And I found myself interacting with people who had dogs. And when I opened myself up to these dogs, I found, even as a non-dog person with no real experience dealing with dogs one-on-one, I found that those same intuitive abilities that I was able to use with people were pretty much similar with animals. Now, the things I picked up were much simpler. I might pick up shyness or fear or warmth or a desire to connect from an animal. So it wasn't going to be really complex stuff, but it was there. And I was able to pick up on it, and I was able to relate to animals from that place. To come closer, not to come closer, how to talk to them, how to connect with them. Just a side point. Okay, so those are the uses for intuition. Now, the question is everybody intuitive? Everybody has the capacity to be intuitive to differing degrees, but everybody has it to some extent. It's like the ability to hear different pitches of sound. Some people have extremely sensitive ears. Some people have very insensitive ears. But all of those people, unless you're profoundly deaf, all of those people are able to hear different pitches to one degree or another. And also one can train the ear. So the same idea. The vast majority of people are somewhat intuitive, some more than others, and everyone can be trained to be more intuitive, absolutely. Okay, so what's interesting is that while being psychic is thought of as being like a gift, it's out there, some people have it, some people don't, and like I say, I'm a little cynical even of the people who say they have it. So they have it, awesome, 25% of the time, and the other 75% they're way off. That may be more than but I'm still not going to depend on it for anything. So I lost my train of thought for a second. But so having said that we are all capable of being intuitive, Oh, I remember what the train of thought was. That people look at being psychic as a special gift. It's a fancy thing. Some people have it, some people don't. It's a big deal. Intuition is actually not complicated. And getting in touch with your intuition is also not complicated at all. And my feeling and my hope are that once I show you how to become intuitive on a very concrete and practical level, that you will use that as a stepping stone to explore being intuitive in more subtle ways, using different tools, that it'll kind of open a door for you. I had a basic level of intuition. I was also trained. I can do things like light trance readings, medium trance readings. And again, it's not necessarily psychic, although some strange things have popped in every once in a while. I remember once I did a light trance reading on somebody, and I told them something about Beatles and a green car. Don't ask me why. But they told me they had just been singing a Beatles song and they drove a green car. That was weird. That was strange. Did it help me with anything? No. Gave me a little confidence. Weirded me out a little bit. Did it help them with anything? Not really. Okay, so those kinds of deeper level trance type readings, yes, I was trained to do it. I don't do it often at all. But the more simple, concrete, day-to-day techniques to be intuitive, oh, I use that all the time, all day, every day. Those are the techniques I'm going to teach you, okay? And again, if you want to use that as a stepping stone to exploring other things on your own, or getting other kinds of trainings, or doing other kinds of exploring out there, reading and listening to other things, go for it. I'm going to give you the most basic foundation so that you will know you're intuitive and you'll have basic tools to pick up things intuitively and to know what to do with it. Okay, let's start here. The first step in tapping into your intuition is to understand that when you are intuitive, you are not intuitive about anything that is out there. There's no jump from here to there. When you are intuitive, the instrument for picking up the intuitive information is right here. It's right here, okay? So you're not projecting yourself outwards. You're not focusing outwards. What you're actually doing is becoming more in tune with what you're feeling here. That's the first thing. Now, the first step to doing that is establishing a baseline. So let's set up a really simple scenario. Somebody is in a room and you are about to go into that room and talk to them. Now, obviously, every scenario is not like this one, but I'm using this as a test sample because it's really simple. So what you want to do is before you go into that room, you take a moment and just ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? What kind of physical sensations am I feeling? What kind of emotional place am I in right now? What kind of vibe do I have around me right now? Am I feeling energized, excited? Am I feeling tired? Am I feeling happy? Am I feeling hyper? Am I feeling a little blue? Am I feeling like the gears are clicking in my mind? Do I feel light? Do I feel a little heavy, a little dragged down? Just check in. And it's not a real detail-y thing. You're just kind of taking a moment. You don't even have to put words on it if you don't want to. And just feeling, how am I feeling right now? Okay? Now, the reason why you're doing this is to establish a baseline so you know what is yours, and when you pick things up, what is not yours. So there we go. We have a sense of how we're feeling, and we walk into that room and we meet Joe and we have a conversation with Joe. And during that conversation, we just kind of open ourselves up and we let Joe kind of soak into us. And we're talking to him and we're just kind of taking in his vibe. Okay? And this is not any woo-woo, just what we do when we have a normal conversation with someone, but we're focused. We're focused, we're centered on that person, we're taking them in. At a certain point in that conversation, just go inside. Go into your body, your mind, your heart, and say, how am I feeling now? And remember, you had that baseline from before. So the answer is, am I feeling a little jittery? Am I feeling a little excited? Am I feeling a little drop in energy? Am I feeling physically heavy, tired? Am I feeling like the gears are moving in my head, click, 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 click? If you've accurately taken a baseline before, just a short time before, no major events, then when you're talking with Joe and kind of taking him in, and you ask yourself now, how am I feeling? And you see how you're feeling, you're going to be able to pick up pretty quickly whether what you're feeling is from you or not. Not based on what direction it's coming from. I told you, you are the instrument. It's always going to be here. But you're going to pick up on whether it's from you or not, because is it a change? It's a change since you started talking to Joe. It's not related to the baseline of what you picked up before. So I came in all chill and feeling relaxed and feeling energized in a nice, relaxed way. And I'm talking to Joe, and all of a sudden I feel like, boom, this little crash. Nothing changed for me, but Joe might have suddenly felt his energy drop, and I'm picking it up. I might come in cheerful, and all of a sudden I just have this blue feeling. Okay? And I took the baseline before, so I know I didn't come in with a blue feeling. So if I have a blue feeling right now in here, there's a good chance that I'm picking it up from Joe. So I hope you get how simple this is. You check how you're feeling, you get a baseline, you interact with someone, you see how you're feeling, and you realize, is this something that really has nothing to do with that baseline from before? Therefore, there's a good chance, let me put it at about 70%, that what you're feeling, that new feeling, you've picked up from outside of you. And if we're talking to one person, we're talking about from Joe. Okay, usually it's not going to be from somebody on the other side of the room. It's going to be from the person you're interacting with right then. And if you're interacting with 3 people, it'll either be the person you're focused on or the person whose vibes are the strongest. Now, okay, step 1, you took a baseline. Step 2, you interacted with someone. Step 3, you saw if that baseline all of a sudden shifted. Now here's a very interesting step 4. Okay, you check. Check. Say, hey Joe, man, how's your energy? I just felt like this energy drop. Are you tired? Or, wow, I'm feeling like this blue cloud over your head. Do you have something on your mind? Or if you don't want to say blue, if that's a little too threatening, you can say, hey, is there a little gray cloud over your head? You got something on your mind? Say it in a joking way. Ask them, hey, are you tired or something? You worn out? And don't say it like you're asking the strangest question in the world. Say it just like it's a casual question that you would ask anybody. You could say, hey, what are you thinking about? I thought I heard the gears. I thought I felt those gears moving. Make a joke out of it. But what you want to do is you want Joe to tell you whether in fact what you picked up on is something that comes from him. That is of key importance. Because when you can verify that the vibe you're picking up, and again, we're not talking about specific thoughts here, but we are talking about feelings, physical sensations, emotions, mental workings, the overall feeling of the mind, not the exact words of the thoughts, no. Okay? When you can pick up that kind of feeling and you can check with somebody and they can verify to you that in fact what you picked up was something that was in their space, in their mind, in their heart, in their body, okay? It allows you to say, that's what it feels like to pick up something. I'm going to feel it here, but I'm picking it up from there. That's what it feels like. That's useful. So it gives you a sense of what it feels like, and it also gives you a lot of confidence, okay? And if you feel a feeling and you think, let's say you're not sure. Let's say all of a sudden Joe starts talking about some awful topic and you start feeling depressed, okay? That's kind of obvious. You know, you might be picking something up from Joe, but you might also be picking something up from yourself. Look, he just talked about some awful, depressing topic. So sometimes a little bit of logic comes into it. You know, if you're reacting to something, you're going to know, oh yeah, this is something I would react to. You know, say they're talking about somebody's favorite, puppy getting sick, or somebody's biggest sports team losing, something that you would respond to. So if you start feeling a certain way, you're going to know that that was something you would respond to. It's kind of logical, okay? But if you start feeling a feeling that's not necessarily something that's connected to anything that's going on with you, and it's not connected to the baseline, it's just a feeling, then definitely you want to check and ask that person, hey, how you feeling right now? Are you energized, or are you just having a slump? Or, you know, boy, I just heard the gears turning in your head. What's going on? Or, yeah, there's a little gray cloud over that head. What's going on in your life? Or, you seem a little hyper restless. Are you anxious to get out of here? Just ask them, okay? You don't have to mention anything about intuition, nothing like that, okay? So that's going to help you. It's going to give you confidence. It's going to let you know what it feels like to pick up something that's coming from outside. And it's going to give you confidence. It's going to check for accuracy, and it's going to let you know what it feels like. Now, step 1, we take our baseline. Step 2, we interact with the person. Step 3, we go inside and ask ourselves how we're feeling. Step 4, we check and see if, in fact, the other person is feeling or thinking what we picked up by asking them in a casual way. Step 5. Step 5 is really important, okay? It's called, now what do you do with it? Okay, Joe said, yeah, there is a little cloud over my head. I've been thinking about my job, and it's just not feeling really secure for me, you know? Heck, didn't we say that being intuitive is to help others? Say something. Use your compassion, use your sensitivity, use your empathy. Ask him to tell you more. Give him some kind of reassurance. Tell him you understand. Tell him, gosh, I'd be feeling the same way if I was in your shoes. Okay? Use what you pick up to make a connection, to empower that person, to reassure them. Not reassure them that you know what's going to happen, but just reassure them that you're with them, that you support them, that you understand how they're feeling, that how they're feeling is normal. Or if they say they're tired, say, hey, how soon till you can, get somewhere where you can relax? Take your knowledge, use it to empower the person, to connect with the person, to make the person feel good. And let me tell you something. You want to practice intuition, you can go next time you're standing in front of a cashier in a grocery store, okay? And just again, you know what your baseline is, you know what you walked into the situation with, and now just open yourself up when you're in front of that other person and see, what are you feeling now? Are you feeling frustrated? Are you feeling uptight? Are you feeling tired? Are you feeling restless? And just ask them, say, hey, long day? Or, gosh, you could probably use a rest. Or, I don't know, your job is frustrating. I don't know if I could do it. Just anything that's connected to what you think you pick up. And if you're on the money, if you hit the bullseye, oh yeah, they will confirm it. They will say something. They'll be like, oh yeah, woo, it's been a long day. Oh God, it's been so frustrating. Oh man, I am so tired, didn't sleep well last night. And then you can say something encouraging to them. How much longer till you get off? Oh wow, it's only an hour and a half. It'll be done before you know it. Or, yeah, people can be so frustrating. Good on you for your patience, whatever it is. So like I say, you can do it as quickly as interacting with a cashier in a store. You can do it in complex situations. You can do it in situations where you're talking to a person that you know. You can do it in situations where you're talking to someone you don't know or don't know well at all. Now, here's a little tip. When you start getting in touch with your intuitive side, you're going to start to realize what a little sponge you are and how much of people's vibes you're actually picking up. And you know what? That's fine. You know when it's not fine? It's not fine when you start soaking in people's vibes and not realizing that it's coming from other people and not from you. And these are people who go to a party or go to a meeting and walk in the room feeling okay and go out of the room feeling stressed, tired, exhausted, miserable. Okay, now one reason could be because the person is just tired out from too much social interaction. Maybe, like me, they can do a good imitation of an extrovert, but they're actually an introvert. So they need a lot of quiet time and a lot of space. But sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's because we went into a situation like the little sponges that we are, and we picked up all the vibes from people, and we didn't realize it was coming from other people. And we took it on as if it was our own. It would be like in that example talking to Joe, where Joe is blue about something, and we don't realize that kind of blue energy that's just kind of now circling around our head is something that we picked up from Joe. We may actually think it comes from us, okay? So that's a problem. We don't want to have that mistaken feeling that all the vibes we're picking up are actually ours. Now, one of the things about that is that's why it's good to take a baseline before you walk into a room, before you interact with someone, just to see where are you at, where are you coming from in yourself. There are two things that you can do as well, very important. The first thing is before the interaction, sometimes during, but definitely before. Put up an imaginary shield right under your boobs, if you're female, okay? If you're a male, right under your chest, okay? So protecting your solar plexus, okay? Like an imaginary plastic shield. Make it bulletproof plastic, okay? If it makes you feel better, make it like an armor plate. Make it like a bulletproof vest. Make it like a sheet of stainless steel bulletproof style, okay? But whatever it is, put an imaginary shield, not over your heart. The heart can be open. The heart can be receptive, okay? Look, if somebody punches you, hopefully it doesn't happen, medium, in the chest, okay? They're going to hit your rib cage, all right? There's a protective cage there. It's there for a reason because you got your heart there, okay? But think about now if somebody punches you, hopefully never happens, in the stomach, in the solar plexus. There is no protection there, okay? That's where, from the Buddhist point of view, your survival feelings are there. Not your love feelings, okay? Not your emotions, but your actual feelings of survival, okay? So when you go into a situation where you're going to be around other people, make a shield around this part of you, around your stomach, around your solar plexus. So the part of you that actually, I feel like I got punched in the stomach. So that part of you doesn't absorb, doesn't take in. What part of you still takes in from people? The heart. What part of you still connects with people? The heart, the mind. But your feelings of survival and safety are shielded. So that's one thing you can do, and you would do that before an interaction. During, but better yet, before. And remember to breathe, of course, okay? The second thing that you do is when you leave a situation, make an imaginary, you can even do it physically, shaking off of whatever vibes, whatever feelings you've absorbed from the people around you. If you want to cut it as if it's like a string connecting you, whatever works in your imagination. If you want to shake it off, if you want to breathe it out, use whatever works in your imagination as a way of disconnecting yourself from all of those, shaking off the vibes and disconnecting from all those connections that you've made, perhaps without even realizing it. because you don't want to suck in people's vibes all the time and infinitely. At some point, you want to be back to who you are and where you are inside. Okay? So I hope that's been helpful. Let me just take a moment and think. So again, being intuitive, being able to pick up where people are coming from, how they're feeling, what their vibe is, what their emotions are, what physical state they're in, that allows us to be more connected to people. It allows us to be more empathetic. It allows us to connect and help people. It allows us to distance ourselves from people if we need to. And by the way, just a little word of caution over here. If somebody is excited about robbing people, you may not pick up a bad feeling. You may just pick up a feeling of excitement. Okay? So don't think that being intuitive means that you're going to pick up that somebody is bad. You may not. You may simply pick up that person's feelings the same way you would from another person. So be cautious. Rely on those external knowledge points about the person. Don't just go on your intuition when it comes to judging whether you want to deal with somebody or not, whether they are safe or not. Use the intuitive feelings as just one part of the overall picture. Okay? It's kind of like pick up what the person's vibes are and also do a background check. That's just a silly example, but it shows you what I mean. Okay? So definitely. Because the other thing that you may pick up when somebody has a problem is you may pick up nothing. I remember once I connected with somebody and I thought of myself as being an intuitive person and I felt nothing. I felt like a blank wall. And in the end, this person turned out to be a negative person in my life. And when I look back, I didn't pick up negative emotions from them. What I picked up was a blank. And it was strange to me at the time. Now I have a little bit more perspective and I can say, yes, this was a person who was disconnected from their own inner self. They're disconnected from their emotions, was flat emotionally. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was definitely that they were disconnected from themselves, and therefore I was picking up a blank screen. So again, when you're dealing with negative people, you may only pick up their emotion without any sense of good or bad, so please rely on your external facts, okay, and your cautions, and you may also pick up a blank. And there are lots of reasons why you may pick up a blank. You can pick up a blank because it's a negative, the person's disconnected in a bad way, or it can simply be somebody who's disconnected because they're disconnected. Something happened to them, or they were abused, or they have some sort of diagnostic issue. So you just don't know. So be aware of the limits of relying too much on intuition without connecting it to outer information. Just as a last point, for example, if you pick up something from a person and you don't know where it fits in and you're not quite sure what's going on, use that intuition, that feeling inside of yourself as a stepping stone to ask them a question or two, to check, to start to investigate and be curious, and to get that concrete information. Okay, look, I hope this was interesting. I hope it was helpful. Leave your comments below and share your experiences, and thank you for watching.